Hi, and welcome to Industry Night with me, Nycci Nellis, the show that takes you on the deep dive on the happenings in the hospitality industry. If you're new here, hi and welcome. If you're old here, hi and welcome too. A little bit about me, just to give you a little understanding of why you're joining us today. So I've been covering the DC food, wine, and hospitality scene for the last 20 plus years. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm sure you're questioning how it's possible I've been doing it that long. But it all started with the list, areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you everything happening in the DC metro area. We are just celebrating 21 years of, thank you, rolling it out. Following that, you also tune in every Sunday to 1500 for Foodie and the Beast, celebrating almost 16 years on air, DC's only food and wine variety show, still to this day. And of course, I'm on social at NYCCI-NELLIS on all the platforms. And if you want to see where I'm going, what I'm doing, where I'm traveling to and eating and all the things. In fact, you can see I was just hanging out with Chef Nobu last night.
Yay!
Oh my God, so much fun.
So exciting.
You'll follow me on all the platforms to see all of that. And then of course, we have this Industry Night. Industry Night has been on air for 7 years, and most recently I was picked up by Heartcast Media, and they developed the YouTube component. So we've been doing that for a year now, which is super sexy and fun. And the best part about the YouTube component is that now I get to go into restaurants and do my show from restaurants. So this month's residency is here with the Peter Chang restaurant group, and I am in Chang Chang. If you don't know, it's the first Peter Chang restaurant here in DC. So I just want to say, like, last time I was on the show, I was a little out of it because I'd literally just gotten back from Barcelona, and I don't get jet lag normally, and I really didn't have jet lag. Like, I was working out, I was doing all the things, but I was just kind of loath to work or do anything. But it is May, shit is happening, there are lots of parties, lots of things, so we have so much to get into. So I want to talk about what's going on here in Chang Chang restaurant, because Peter Chang, also known as, what was he called? I have it written down here.
Was it the disappearing chef?
It wasn't the disappearing chef.
The mystery chef?
It was I'm going to follow.
The fans are
the restless chef, because everybody would follow him around because nobody was serving that kind of Sichuan cuisine here in DC. But now he's got almost 17 restaurants any minute now. Uh-huh. And listen, Lydia Chang is totally behind bringing me in to do my shows from their restaurants for the next few weeks. But with me today is Jen Lin-Liu. She is the director of events here at Chang Chang. And here's the thing. They don't just do catering. They do family style dinners and wine dinners and really amazing events here. The event space is really flexible. So Jen's gonna walk us through all of it. Also, they have a whole to-go area, and they do a tremendous amount of that too. So you wanna know about all of that, and Jen's gonna get into that. But before I talk to Jen, I wanna tell you who my other guest of today's show is. It is the very stylish and style-setting publisher of DC Magazine. So we're gonna get into the story of how all those glossies came to DC, because there was a moment when there was only Washingtonian in DC. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but then there was an explosion of really sexy magazines. Now we kind of shrunk again, but DC Magazine is really doing amazing things. Jess is the publisher, and we're going to talk about all the things that she's doing to make publishing so sexy. All right, so we're going to do a quick where I've been, because I have been out and about, even though I didn't want to do it, but I've also been doing a ton of cooking. I have family in town, so I'll be posting recipes for chicken saltimbocca, lemon dressed char, which is one of my favorite entertaining dishes, chicken provençal, and a flourless chocolate cake. I mean, I've been cooking a lot. I've also popped into Sebo, which is a new restaurant, not Seba, which used to be here, doesn't exist anymore, in Adams Morgan. And it's really interesting. It's a South American restaurant, but it's really leaning towards Uruguay, because that's where the chef and his brother are from. The brother is the front of the house, chef is back of the house. And the dishes are really beautiful and thoughtful, and they're using really interesting ingredients. It was an excellent meal. Go to my Instagram, you'll see a slideshow of all the posts. And then I did mention Nobu before, and I have to mention it again. Last night was Taste of Nobu. Nobu came to town. We did a little class together. We learned how to make sushi, which was so much fun. I was literally eating out of his hands. And then there was a huge party. So lots of sushi, lots of wagyu, some blue cocoa, and Nobu's tequila. Really great fun. So I'm going to leave it off there because I want to get into Jen. Jen.
Hi. How are
so
you
nice to
doing?
meet you. So just a little bit about you, because you do a lot of things. You're not just the director of events here at Chang Chang.
This is my fun job. My other job is writing.
Okay.
Which is hard and rewarding in its own way.
Sure.
But not as lucrative at this point.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what brought you to the Peter Chang family?
So my friend Pichet Ong, the pastry chef.
We
started
all know
here.
Pichet.
Of course, everybody knows Pichet.
Yes.
So he was opening Chang Chang, and I happened to be moving to town at the same time. I'm new to DC. I've only been here for a little over a year. And he invited me to the restaurant to have lunch, and I walked out that day with a job.
Wow, isn't that amazing? So, but did you know anything about doing events? Like,
Yes,
what's your
so
background in that?
I founded a cooking school in Beijing in 2008.
Okay.
And it's still going. It's called Black Sesame Kitchen. And it caters to the tourist population. We get a lot of international business travelers, tourists. And so I've been in the food industry
For a really long time.
For a couple decades now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the style of this restaurant here. Lydia talked a little bit last week how it's the departure, because there's several different brands under the Peter Chang umbrella of restaurants. So we talked a little bit about the departure, that it's not a Peter Chang, it's not Peter Chang's.
Yes.
It's Chang Chang. So can you talk about like what that experience means to you and how you bring people in for events?
Right. So Chang Chang is the first restaurant of Peter Chang's in the district. Everything else is out in Maryland, Virginia. And so we tend to get a very high profile audience here. We have, very high level, friends who come and eat here.
Right.
And we do an amazing cocktail list, an amazing, dessert package. So it's the whole package.
Sure.
Yeah, not
So-
just your typical Chinese restaurant, I would say.
No, not at all.
A lot of people come in here and don't think that it's a Chinese
Well,
restaurant.
because it's really beautiful.
But that's the thing, actually.
I shouldn't say it like that.
But no, not at all. But that's totally what a lot of people think, and we have to fight this conception because.
But it doesn't. So when Scott
doesn't look like your old school typical
right.
Chinese
So when Scott
restaurant.
opened up the Source, it was a. No, I mean,
Yeah.
listen, I love
Yeah.
the Source, but
Yeah.
it was a white guy doing Chinese food, and he's very talented.
great.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
but and I know Peter Chang and he do a lot together, but like the
Yes.
Source did not look like a Chinese restaurant,
Yes.
and I think that was more visually palatable to people because they're like, yeah, well, it's Wolfgang Puck. There's a white guy back there, but when you
Right.
first walk in here,
Right.
it's like light and bright, like it has more Mediterranean vibes. Do you know what I mean? Like than it does, yes, a classic Chinese restaurant.
Well, I would say when I walked in here, because I had been living in Beijing for
having not been
10
to
years
China,
plus,
right?
It looked exactly like a restaurant in China.
Fascinating.
Amazingly enough,
Right.
because our idea, Chinatowns in China have been Chinese restaurants in America have been stuck in a certain mold.
Yeah, like from like the
expectations
1960s,
of
red,
what people
gold,
want.
right?
Right, lanterns and dark colors and all of that. And Lydia Chang, Peter's daughter, has done an amazing job with the design.
Right.
And, it is breaking those conceptions.
Sure.
And, people come in here and they see, Latino waiters or non-Asian waiters, and
Sure.
they think that's also not Chinese. But you wouldn't necessarily go to a French restaurant and expect everyone to be French in there.
Actually, I love that you're saying this because I think it's really interesting. Like when you're in a foreign country, right? Like if you're in an Italian restaurant in Spain or an Italian restaurant in France,
Yes.
like not everybody in there is Italian.
Correct.
Right? Because
Correct.
it's
a lot of them come from the countries around there.
right, of course.
Or Africa, or
it's just a misnomer, I think, in the States. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the catering here, but I really want to talk about the parties.
Sure.
Because
because you're always into parties.
because I love a party, and I haven't been invited, but that's okay.
Oh, we'll invite you. Of course, we'll invite you.
But let's talk about wine dinners and especially the family style party, like offerings that you do, because that appeals to me personally?
Right. So when you book an event here and it's a private event, we give you a menu, and it's a set menu.
Sure.
We can change it up, but what we do always is serve it family style. And people will look at the list of dishes, like probably 10 dishes at least.
Okay.
And they will say, but wait a second, are we supposed to choose, one appetizer, one entree, one dessert? And we say, no, everything's
coming out.
It will come out in the order, and you'll get a taste of everything. And they're like, well, what about dietary restrictions? We can accommodate for that. But the beauty of it is that you can all, there's so many dishes on the table, so many different flavors to experience.
Everybody's getting taken care of.
That everybody is happy. And the thing with Chinese food is it is always about the mix and match of different flavors, proteins, textures. All of that needs to come through in a meal. So that's why we want to give people, 10 dishes.
Well, and let's just talk about that for a minute, because I think this is really authentic and Chinese food, in that it's not adapting to American palates, which are usually looking for something sweeter, right? So you've got a really different sort of aesthetic visually, as well as what the taste is like. Now, listen, it's DC. You have a very educated consumer here, but how do you go about helping them with that?
Well, look, I love sweet and sour chicken. We have it on our menu.
Right.
I mean, we do have those dishes, and but the thing is, we have the authentic version of what sweet and sour chicken is, which is a dish that people eat in China as well.
Right, of course.
So that is, but I've always pushed Peter. Part of my role is a menu consultant, and I have always pushed him in the direction of people want authentic.
Right.
We can go to Panda Express. That is a different experience.
Yes.
And of course, we have a takeout arm here, but I would recommend that if you were going to get the full experience, come here and dine in, because that's how the food needs to be eaten hot and right out of the wok.
All right.
So I mean, we've got huge woks in the back. There, you need the food out, and you need to eat it right away. So
okay, I'm going back to look at those woks after the show today.
Absolutely.
All right. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. Everything about Jen will be in the show notes, and everything about Chang Chang will be there too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, up next, we're going to be talking to Jessica Powers of DC Magazine. So not long after I launched the list, areyouonit.com 21 years ago, the only really magazine in town of note was Washingtonian. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's still here. It's still a great publication, great writers, all the things. But at that time, the glossies came to town, like all at once. One was DC Style, one was DC Modern Luxury, and one was Capital File. And it was like this explosion of activity. First of all, it meant lots of writers could write for lots of places, which was very exciting. And it was a little bit before social media. I think Twitter was available, but there was no Insta, and you couldn't put pictures anywhere yet. But all of a sudden, there were events, all thrown by these publications. There were opening events and parties, and like every store that opened had a party. It was a really interesting time. Now, fast forward to today, the parties are really happening, like more now than ever, because there was a bit of a dip. DC Style did not last long. I don't even think maybe it lasted a year and a half. And then Cap File and Modern Luxury merged. But we're going to get into all the details, because a lot of people don't really understand how publications and parties go hand in hand. But in today's world, it is so important. And with me today is the publisher of DC Magazine, Jessica Powers. We love her last name. She has a married last name, but we're not using it. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so appreciative to have you here, especially because it's White House Correspondents' Weekend. I mean, this show is airing in a couple of weeks, but like it's insane right now.
We're in the thick of the events.
Okay, so just a little bit about you. Let's talk about how you got into publishing, because you didn't start there. You started in sales.
Yes.
At the magazine.
At the magazine. So I always wanted to work at a magazine. When I was little, when I would play with my cousins, we would cut out of magazines, we'd pretend to work at the magazines, be doing the fashion. So every day I have to pinch myself because I'm living that childhood dream.
Oh my God, you manifested
I was
it.
going to say I manifested. I literally cut out pictures and hung them on my wall. So I'm really lucky in that sense and kind of always had that guiding light. So when I was growing up, I lived in New Jersey and I would...
Oh my God, where in New Jersey?
Central, like Princeton area.
Oh, okay. I grew up in like the Short Hills area.
Oh, nice.
Morristown
the best
area.
mall. The best
Yes.
mall. The Short Hills Mall was
Yes,
like the
of course.
go-to.
But Lambertville is beautiful.
Lambertville is beautiful,
Yes.
yes. So I was about 20 minutes away. And then I went to Virginia Tech, and while I was at school, I said, I want to intern every summer in the city. So I interned at Condé Nast when they still had interns, any magazine that would take me, and I just schlepped garment bags around and assisted on photo
But did you
shoots.
want to work in, did you want to write?
I had no idea.
Oh, okay. You just knew you wanted to be in
Yes.
publications.
I was
okay.
like, I don't know how I'm going to get into that.
Uh-huh.
I kind of liked writing. I thought about it, but I loved fashion and I loved food. I loved everything that went into the lifestyle magazine. So I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I just was like, if I put myself out there and I do these internships, I'll figure it out.
Right.
So flash forward to I graduate Virginia Tech and nowhere will hire me in New York. It's just like, nope, not even where you interned. And I ended up working for Living Social here.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Sure.
So I was like, you know what?
God, remember those days?
Yes, the good old
I forgot
daily
the
deals.
Groupons, Living Social. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
So I was at Living Social and loved it. It was a lot of fun, but we kind of had the sense that the company was going under.
Okay.
It was a little bit, it was like right before it fully went under. So I picked up DC Magazine and there was an ad in the magazine saying that they were hiring for salespeople. So I just called up the publisher at the time and said, I'm in sales now.
Right.
I'd love to do sales for the magazine. I don't know what that consists of.
Okay.
So he brought me in and we did this long interview and he basically said at the end of the interview, and you know who this person is, so you're going to picture this perfectly.
Okay.
He kind of said, well, you know, you don't really have the sales experience that we're looking for, so I don't know if it's necessarily a good fit. And I sat back down and pitched him on myself and why it would be a good fit, and I got the job.
Good. Well, that's what a salesperson does,
Exactly.
right? Like, talk about being given like the opportunity to prove him wrong, right?
Yes.
I love that story. Okay. So you did sales, and that's just bringing in ads,
Exactly.
right?
So, and it was great because I learned sort of how these publications, the glossies, come together because it's not subscription based. It's based on generating revenue through print advertising, digital advertising, and events, which we're going to talk about and why they're so important, not just for the revenue, but for the magazine and the city that we're in.
Sure.
So I got to learn all of that, and even though I was doing ad sales, we're a small team of 6 people, I got to learn everything.
Okay.
Work closely with our editors, work closely with our design teams, the creative teams, and then I ended up leaving the magazine after about 2 years. The team that we were in place, we all
And this is
left.
when? Like, at what point?
This is 2014.
Okay, so like, and that's kind of, in my mind, sort of when there was a shift
Yeah.
in...
Wait, I'm telling you the wrong time. I did this earlier today to you. I left in 2017. I'm sorry. But the shift was happening. You were
So
right.
I'm just sort of curious, because there was in the beginning so many events.
Yes.
And listen, there was some competition with the mags and how much events and Living Social and Groupon, like all those things, like everybody was like jockeying
And
for a
blogs
position.
were coming out. All these things started
But
happening.
then, like, you know, I always say like blogs were like a huge pendulum swing. Do you know what I mean? Like when I first started my business, there were no blogs. And then 2 years later, there were blogs. And I literally went from like a press dinner where there were like 6 of us to like 30. Do you know what I mean? But then it went back to 6 because like not everybody could figure out how to make money off of it. So I guess there was a lull. Did any of the lull in events, did it have to do with finances, or did it have to do more with the political vibe in the city? Because let's be honest, like the Obama years were good for everybody.
Exactly. I always say, me and my husband say it was the best time in the city.
It
No
was-
matter what you politically
No,
believe.
it really isn't about the politicals of it. Like, to me, that was 8 years of like vibrant growth, so much money invested in
young
the city.
president with people wanted to be around him.
So many people came to town.
Right.
I mean, between 2008 and 2016, like whole neighborhoods that didn't exist. The Wharf, Navy Yards, 14th Street, like whole neighborhoods just burst out of the ground, right?
Totally.
So, okay, so anyway, you left.
So I leave in 2017, and that's when that lull that you're talking about really hits a low point.
Right.
The publisher I'd worked for left, the editor that I had worked for left, we all left, and the folks that own the company, Modern Luxury, were kind of like, we don't know what to do here. We don't know how to make this work here. And they had just merged Capital File. Modern Luxury had just acquired GreenGale, which was Capital File.
Okay.
So it should have been working seamlessly. They bought the competition. There was no one else in town to do anything, and it wasn't working. So in 2019, somebody that they had brought sort of on as a strategic consultant reached out to me and said, would you entertain coming back to the magazine? And I said,
in sales?
They didn't say.
Okay.
So this is actually funny, and we talked a little bit about it before. So they said, we want you to come back to the magazine. And I said, okay, would it be a sales capacity? They said, yeah, you'd be doing a little bit of everything. We're not quite sure on what the role would be.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And then I told them what I was looking for, and they were like, okay, that's all fine. And then my first day starting, they came in, they introduced me, and I just went in because I was like, oh, well, I've done this job before. I didn't ask as many questions as I should have, like, what is this?
Right, what is my position?
What is my position? I don't know what I was thinking. I was just excited to be back. And on the first day, they introduced me as the publisher. So I was like, the publisher?
Right.
There's no publisher here? I've never done this before. I never managed anyone. I never ran a business, managed a P&L.
Right.
I'd only done sales.
Okay.
Because when I left, I was just doing sales for Guild Group.
Right.
And I remember coming home from work that day and talking to my husband and being like, yeah, I'm the publisher. And him being like, that's exciting.
That is exciting. That's a sexy title.
Yeah. And he was like, do you know what you're doing? And I was like, no. But I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try and figure it out. So that was 2019. And
so what does a publisher do?
it's a great question.
Because you have an editor, right, who takes all the pitches, gets all the writers.
Right.
They put in the editorial in the publication. What does the publisher do for the publication?
So the publisher, and this is funny because often I'm called the editor when people don't know because they're not as familiar with the position.
No.
It's essentially running the business of the magazine. So a publisher's job is to make sure that revenue is being generated. They have to be strategic in how they're generating that revenue, which often you have to work hand in hand with the editor. Because if he's covering things that aren't appealing to our advertisers or our partners, then
what's the point?
Then what's the point?
Right.
So, and there's that delicate line of that editorial consideration that he has to have, and then the business side that I have to have. So Michael McCarthy, our editor, one of the first things I did when I came back was bring him back because I'd been working with him previously and knew that we'd work well together.
Right.
So long-winded answer, essentially you have to oversee the ad sales, the marketing, the events, the editorial. You sort of just have to make sure everything's working together and that you're generating the revenue that you need to be successful.
So you have people doing direct sales, like your old job.
Correct.
But now what are you doing? Like how do events come into play? Like there was that lull, and when you came in, given that you weren't doing any events, how did you devise a plan to strategically move the publication to where it is now? Because now you guys are everywhere. Now granted, you don't have the competition, but that wasn't why.
Knock on wood, don't come. No. Nobody come.
But that isn't why I fell behind.
Right.
So what were you like, okay, this is what I need to do in order to put DC Magazine in everybody's mouths again?
Yes. Well, I had to think about it. So when I came on as a publisher, I had so much to learn. And I was like, half of it I'll Google, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
But I had to think about my why, or else I would never know how this was going to be successful. I would never have anything grounding me that I knew could be my anchor. So the phrase, what I came up with was community. And what is our community? What does that even mean? And essentially what we're covering in our magazine is the DC community in fashion and art and culture and food. And then we needed that community to come to life with events and actually have this tangible thing that people could come to and feel like part of the community. So that's where the events became so important because first of all, print is in a renaissance. So the print side of the business is doing great. People want to touch and feel and integrate into what they're reading. Digital has its own path, and that's a very important part of our business too. But we've sort of realized what should be where and how we should interact with digital and print. And then events comes in as this really beautiful thing that brings it all together and brings it to life.
How so? Like explain that a little bit. And I want to back up a little bit because I think there was a time where digital meant just the content that's in the magazine. Like you would put the magazine out, and then 2 weeks later it would be up digitally, right?
Yes.
Or something to that nature. But now you're doing things very differently. And I think you're seeing this everywhere, right? Like
Right.
there is online content.
Right.
Sometimes it'll wind up in the publication and sometimes it won't, right? So how did that all come to be?
So the thing is, if you want to, essentially things a lot come back to revenue. If you want to sell display ads on your website, which is what our sales folks have to do,
Right.
you have to get people to the website.
Sure.
And just throwing the magazine up there wasn't working. People are like, I can read this on my iPhone or read it in person, but that's not going to get me to the website. So Vogue really started it with like their 21 questions, or I forget what that thing they do is when they ask people, rapid fire questions.
Right.
So we had to come up with content for the website to get people there that was interesting. And the beautiful part about that is it often will lend us to what's going on that we should be covering in print. So for example, today, this will air later, but we just released the 14 best chefs.
Right.
People are going crazy for it.
They are.
So now I'm
And by the way, Peter Chang
Yes.
is one of the chefs, which
Yes.
is like pure serendipity.
yes. Yes, that was great. Good thing he was, or else
Yes,
this would be a very
or
awkward
else
conversation.
we wouldn't be talking about it. That's
But
true.
he deserves it, and this
Yes.
was amazing. So now I know, okay, we're doing Best of City. Let's cover the best chefs in July, August, and I'll go talk to Michael because it's getting a lot of people to the website. It'll get a lot of people to the magazine, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Sure.
So,
and then where would you say events play into that? Like, how does that come in together?
So when I think about events, it's usually in different segments. We have the DC Magazine events that we do that are sort of our tentpole events, like Women of Style, which you've been to. You've probably been to all of these, but Best of City, Power Players, and this is editorial content that we're bringing to life. So this is saying, okay, we're covering this in this issue, but we want this to be a real thing that we can interact with.
Because in the early days, there were celebrations for every issue.
Yeah, and there is
right?
now. Pretty much, I feel like we have a lot going on in May. I will probably do a release party. I'm going to bite my tongue, but just because
Right.
this week's so crazy. But typically we're doing a launch
release
party a month.
Which is amazing.
At least one.
And so do you find a partner for that? How do you go about doing that?
So we're very lucky because the city has been so welcoming to us and such a great part of the community that often folks, we tell them who will come to these events and they're like, we want to host you.
Right.
We want to show off our food. We want the influencers there tagging the restaurant, showing it as a hot place to be. So they'll often collaborate with us, and it's a true collaboration that makes sense for both of us. So
Right.
And then we'll bring in some sponsors or folks that want to be affiliated with the power issue or with the fashion issue. Like we have St. John for the fashion issue. They're opening up in Tyson's. Bloomingdale's gets involved with a lot of our events.
Because you just did a fashion show at Bloomingdale's,
I did,
right?
yes.
I hated to miss that,
I
but
know,
yes.
we missed you. Yeah, it was fun. But it's important, those events, to celebrate what we're doing. But often the events are also celebrating what other people are doing.
Sure.
So we may even be the media sponsor for an event. So I'm trying to think of a good example. It could be a gala that we're behind because we want to support the community in that sense. Or it could also be something like the Bloomingdale's fashion show where we want to bring fashion to life. That's their event,
Right.
but we're just covering
You're a partner.
and partnering to bring additional exposure to the magazine, to get folks excited, to support our partner. But it's vital to what we do because it allows the content to come off the paper
Sure.
and be a living, breathing thing that people can actually engage with and see on social media, in video, on our website, and in print.
Well, I was going to ask, now that you have the social media component, right, on top of events, on top of editorial, on top of ad sales, now you have this other. I actually think it's an incredible way to communicate.
Yes.
Because you can do video, you can do photos in a way that's engaging, that doesn't have to do, it can celebrate what's in the magazine or
Yes.
celebrate the events that you're doing without being a direct, without duplicating.
Exactly.
Right? So how do you apply social? How do you find, what outlets to you are most valuable and how do you apply them?
We're really focused on Instagram. And I think because that consumer is someone who's highly interested in beautiful, curated images, which is what our magazine is. So it's very synergistic in that sense. But the great thing about social media and how it's been really valuable to us is it's fast. With
Yes, it
printing, we could do an interview. We have to, edit it, print it, has to go to the printer, has to be distributed. It could be a month before
Right.
the conversation,
Right.
at the earliest.
Right.
So social media allows us to get things done quickly, to do rapid fire questions, to cover things in the city that are exciting in real time.
Sure.
So it's very valuable for us still being a resource, not necessarily news, because we're not covering breaking news, but we're still covering what's hot, what's trendy, and the latest things going on, and that has to be done in real time.
Right, right. And so would you say, how would you divvy up the editorial section? Food, fashion, travel, like what are the sections that are really speaking to you when you're talking to the editorial team? Are you like, I want to see more X or I want to see more Y?
Yeah.
Like I know fashion and food are very important to you, and travel, prop, all the good things.
All the good things.
Right, but are there things that are now coming into the publication that maybe you weren't focused on before? Like what are the priorities editorially?
Definitely. So the thing with our editorial calendar is in each issue we'll cover food, fashion, art, culture, and travel, like you said.
Right.
But each issue also has a theme. So the feature well, what we call it, will be focused on something specifically. So in May, we're doing wellness. And we just did in March interior design. And that was something that when I came on, I didn't realize how important that was to our audience, and
especially
how much,
in this area.
Yes,
I
how
know.
much they loved interior design and the projects, and what incredible talent that we have here. So we launched Modern Luxury Interiors Washington 2 years ago.
Oh.
There just wasn't enough opportunity within the publication to support all the incredible projects, designers, all the things happening here. So Modern Luxury, we call it just Interiors, is about a year and a half old now.
Okay.
But that was something that was very important to our audience.
So is it a separate publication?
Yeah.
How often does it come out?
It's twice a year. So we'll
Wow.
do spring, summer. Spring, summer is about to launch in a few weeks in May. And then we'll do fall, winter in October.
And it's print.
It's print.
That's amazing.
And we'll do events for it as well. But the events have a very different feel. They are, most recently we did it in a luxury listing with Classic Cottages. And we took over one of their $1 million mansions and brought all the interior designers in. And it feels very different than the Women of Style or Best of City.
Sure.
So
But
we're
that-
able to get different groups together.
Right, which is the whole point, right?
Right.
Because you're trying to reach out to all these different people.
Right.
And how best to engage with them and their tastes and likes.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about, with all these events and all the work that you're doing, you're out all the time.
Yeah.
You have, like, I want to see your closet. You have tons of clothes. So how, like, you're in full hair and makeup
I'm in
today.
full hair and makeup.
I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, then you see what's happening here, because I am not in full hair and
You
makeup.
look
I'm just in hair, per usual. I don't know. I have no clue about makeup at all. I don't even pretend. I need
You
a
look
specialist. And you will tell me who's doing yours. So
Oh,
that I
yeah.
know going
They're the
forward.
best.
But let's talk about how you developed your style. You've always liked fashion, but now that you have to be public facing so often, how do you go about growing that style and finding the best ways to do it? Because you don't have an unlimited budget, so we're not all Kardashians. So how do you go about curating your style and look?
Well, it's a very delicate dance for me, because one of the things I always have to consider is I'm young. I'm the youngest publisher at Modern Luxury. So a little background on Modern Luxury. It's the nation's largest luxury lifestyle media company. There's 22 cities, 22 magazines. Of all 22, I'm the youngest.
Wow.
I'm female. So it's always a delicate dance of wanting to present myself in a serious way, but also wanting to be authentic to who I am and how I like to dress. So
I think when you get older,
you care less.
you really don't care.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're, not to use your last name, you are in a position of power.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with, I mean, you're gorgeous and you look great, but it's because you're doing an amazing job.
Thank
It's because of
you.
your intellect and your
Thank you.
smarts and your savvy. So wear whatever you want.
I know. And well, in 2019, I was very nervous about what I would wear, just because I wanted to be taken seriously, and I felt like I had something to prove. And I did. I mean, the magazine was doing terribly. I had so much work to do.
Right.
So I wanted where I was in life to be representative of that. And I would like wear long sleeves and only wear midi dresses and never dream of wearing anything mini or like too tight. And now it's 2024. I've been doing this for 5 years. I feel much more comfortable in wearing what I feel is expressive of that moment.
Well, but as a fashion focused
Yeah.
and luxury focused magazine, I would assume that's you have to. It's part of the look, right? So at least you're walking into that.
And I work with great partners.
So let's talk about that. Who are the partners? Who are you working with? Who are you liking these days?
So I have 2 partners I've been working with most recently, Sichuan and Bobby, which we did a great dinner with them, and that was really fun to bring fashion to DC. And they said, we want to send you some things to wear to your events because it's great for people to see if you're out and about and being photographed and on social media. So I'm so grateful for them. They've sent me amazing dresses and 2-piece sets and lots of things. And also St. John Knitwear. They're kind of thought of, oh yes! Oh good, that makes me so happy.
St. John.
They opened up their store last year in Tyson's Galleria. And
I have the dress that goes with this too.
Do you? I think I know what one it is. They wanted to be relevant, and they wanted to.
Yeah, because a lot of people have, not to go down a rabbit hole, but there's a real misconception about St. John that it's really your grandma's brand. It's for older women, but I think their knits and their cuts are so flattering, and I mean, I think they're sexy. I think their clothes are really amazing. I
just wore a 2-piece set from them.
It's all how you put it together.
Exactly. So they've been kind enough to send me some things to wear. So I'm lucky that some folks want to use that as a way to bring what they're selling in stores to life and have it out and about, truly on the streets of the city and at the events. And then some of it, I have fun with it. I really try and stick with the theme of whatever we're covering. So for power players, I might do a power suit. For dynamic women, I might do something super feminine. And so I like to kind of play on the theme a bit. And it's a very fun way to express because, being on the publishing side, it's business, it's numbers. I'm always thinking about the revenue.
Sure.
I don't always get to be involved in the creative aspects, the photo shoots like Michael McCarthy does.
Right.
So that's my moment to really be creative and express myself creatively.
That is fun. So do you work with a stylist?
No, that take all the fun away. I'll work on my White House looks I've been working on for months.
Okay, I'm so impressed.
We'll see. I mean, hopefully they land. But and I'm lucky that I have really great glam team. So I'll pick the outfit and then I'll send it to my.
So what does a glam team consider to you?
Makeup,
hair and makeup. Okay.
And I have my girl. I work with 3 makeup artists that I love, and I have to have 3 because so many events. If I only had 1,
they're being used.
Exactly.
Right.
So
you keep that close to your vest. I totally.
No, I want to shout them out.
Okay.
Alondra.
All right.
Makeup by Alondra, Makeup by Anna B, and Sharon Ratner. Those are my go-to girls.
Okay.
And they're fantastic. They're probably booked solid, but
all the time, no doubt.
That's my 3.
And then what about hair?
Hair, Nadine Matar is amazing. I work with Katoya a lot if I'm doing an updo or something fun, but I can do my hair myself, believe it or not. So that, I'll save myself time doing that. But for this weekend, I'm working with Encore by Corey and then Jackie Davis for hair because we're doing some looks.
Okay, how much fun.
I know.
So how many parties do you have this weekend for White House Correspondents?
I have 4 tonight.
Okay.
I have 3 tomorrow, so that's 7. And then I have 5 on Saturday.
Wow.
And I took Sunday fully off.
Okay, so other than your party, what is, other than wanting to go to have fun, but that's a lot of parties.
Oh no, I'm a homebody. I know no one is ever going to believe it.
But why go to all of them? What is it is it to be seen? Is it because you have hands to shake? What's the drive for some of them? Not all of them. Some of them I totally get. But some of the other ones, why are you going?
A little of everything you just said.
Okay.
I do have hands to shake. I have advertisers that will be a part of it that I want to make them feel special. I will bring them to some events, so it's an opportunity to network even more for them, for me. Also, I got to stay relevant. I got to go to the parties to make sure that I know what's going on in the city, or else if I'm just at home all the time, I don't know what's going on. I can't do this job. And then honestly, I'm going to so many this week because Michael's out and he's traveling in Abu Dhabi, and normally we'll tag team and divide them up.
Okay, divide and
he'll
conquer.
go shake hand, kiss babies, and take people out, and I'll do the other. And it's usually 2 a night, and it's fine and it's manageable.
But you're alone.
But I'm alone.
Okay.
I'm alone, so it's just me this week, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've never had this many, but I'm
All
going
right.
to drink
Well, you'll have
espresso.
you're going to come back to us. You're going to tell us.
Yeah.
My concern more for you is like hydration.
I know. I'm going to drink some water.
Right? Like you need to stay hydrated. Like I want to put a face mask on you like right now to keep you like as hydrated as possible because everybody's going to be putting drinks in your hand.
I won't. So this is the funny thing too. If it's our event, I won't drink it all.
Okay.
So I won't drink it all tomorrow night. But, and I will, like tonight I'm going to try not to drink. Tomorrow night I'm trying to drink, and then I'm going to go all the way on Saturday because then I don't have anything on Sunday.
Right, you have nothing to do. You can rest on Sunday.
That's my plan.
I know.
Will I stick to it? No, I don't know. I'm a sucker for a white wine, a margarita, champagne.
I'm a sucker for champagne.
Yeah.
I was at that Nobu event last night, and there was a champagne bar, and originally I was like, I don't need to drink tonight.
Exactly.
And then somebody put a glass of champagne in my hand, and I was like, well,
I know.
I guess I'm drinking champagne this evening.
So I have high hopes, but
no judgment.
We'll see.
Either way.
Exactly.
I mean, my one rule is, unless I'm entertaining at home, I do not drink at home.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
I don't open a bottle of wine. I don't drink a lot of hard liquor, but I have a massive bar.
Yeah.
Just because people send me booze all the time.
Yeah.
They send you clothes, they send me booze. I just don't touch it.
I know.
I think you have to put some of those, when you're in the two different worlds that we're in that sort of intersect a little bit, like you have to put parameters in place.
Oh, totally.
Because that's my next question for you. You mentioned you're doing a wellness issue. Given that you are out a lot, given that you have to eat a lot, you have to travel, you have to shake hands and kiss babies all the time, what do you do for wellness?
I work with an amazing functional medicine doctor.
Okay.
So Indigo, Integrative Medicine in Georgetown. And they make sure that I'm supplementing with what I need. I'm eating the things that are right for me, that are giving me energy, that if I need an IV, which I probably will after this weekend, that I'm going in and getting it done. But
talk to me about an IV. I need a little more info.
Oh, an IV. So it's funny. My husband always tells the story. I've once run a business meeting with an IV in my arm because there's only so many hours in the day.
So many hours in the day.
And I was just there. He loves to tell that story.
Okay, good.
But the IV is just they'll put all the vitamins in it that you'll need, everything so that you don't get sick, that you stay hydrated. And it's about, you sit there for 45 minutes. It just kind of drips like you're at the doctor.
So how often do you do it?
Try not to do it that often because it's not good to poke your veins that much. Maybe like once a month or like.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a weekly thing. Okay.
Some people do it weekly. It depends on. I just listen to what my functional medicine doctor says, and they sort of like measure my levels, see what's going on, and they'll tell me what I need.
Okay, you're going to give me your functional doctor.
Oh, she's amazing.
All right, that's going in show notes too.
Yes.
So you will find out. I'm not giving you the makeup artist because that is I need a new one. So that is good. But definitely on that, I think that's really interesting. Yeah. And what about exercise, stuff like that? Do you have time?
I have to. If I don't exercise, I will lose my mind. I'm a witch. My husband won't want to talk to me.
Okay. So what's your form?
So if I'm really like on it, I will get up 5:30 and do strength training and a little bit of cardio. Nothing too crazy, like light strength training, but I like to just have that sort of meditative state for an hour and a half before the day gets crazy.
Okay.
If it's a crazy week like this week, I don't have time for it. I'll get up later because sleep is most important.
Absolutely.
And I'll just walk on the treadmill for like 30 to 45 minutes, do emails, do whatever I need to do to multitask, but just moving my body will help me stay sane.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so important. Like, not having a strict regimen is okay as long as you give your body the outlet that it needs. Do you know what I mean? You have to move. I totally agree. Okay, what's coming up next for you?
So what's coming up next is we have a very exciting issue that's relevant to our conversation is we're doing Best of City. Okay. So voting is now live on dc.capitalfile.com.
Okay.
Where everyone in the city, our community, can go and vote for their favorite chef, their favorite restaurant, their favorite brunch. It's not just food, although there's a big focus on food and wine.
Sure.
It's hair, it's gyms, it's workout classes, it's automotive, it's everything. And then we're going to do a wonderful issue in July, August that is going to be a resource for all the best of the best per our community.
Cool.
And Michael's lens. Like 1 year we had everyone voted for best breakfast spot for Chick-fil-A and we were like, that's not going to fly.
No, it's not.
So Michael takes the reins there.
I always wonder with the voting if it gets because you see a lot of people pushing, like vote here. So if you're voting more than if you can vote more than once, then you can totally
make
skew
things
it,
sway.
right?
That's why Michael has the final word. So
Okay,
we
good. I'm
always
thrilled to hear
say-
that. Because if I saw Chick-fil-A on there, I'd be like, I don't trust a
No,
thing you people say.
Never.
Right?
And he has to, because he has to have the final word to make sure that this is, because like you said, people could vote for themselves a million times.
Right.
But if we have the best plastic surgeon and he has a malpractice suit, then we're going to look like phonies.
Yes,
We're going to look like idiots that doesn't know what's going on. So we vet everything. Michael goes over it, and it will be mostly reader voted. But if he has to move some things around so it's actually relevant, then he will. But that's my favorite issue of the year, and then we're going to do a really big event for it this year. We've never done a big best of city.
Okay.
But we're going to do a true celebration of what is in that issue. So what that looks like, we'll decide in a few weeks.
Sure.
The party will be in August. It'll be slow in the city, but it'll give a reason to come back.
But I got to be honest, it's funny that you say that. I mean, when I first started the list, it was so slow in the city in August that we took August off.
Yeah.
I gave my whole team off. We always took off in August because there was nothing happening.
Right.
Not anymore.
I know.
There's no rest for the weary. Like,
There's
always events. There's always things happening. August, it slows down for like 2 weeks, like those last 2 weeks. But
Exactly.
honestly, there's still stuff going on.
Totally.
Restaurants are opening, stores are opening,
Yeah.
people are going out. Like, it's still busy.
I completely agree. So that is coming up in July, August. And then September, of course, is our style issue, which is my favorite thing that we do.
Okay.
So we'll do women of style. We'll do dynamic women. It's a very female-focused issue, which I love. And we'll do another great event around that. But they'll all feel different, you know?
Okay.
They all will have a cocktail feel, but Best of City will be longer. It'll be bigger. It'll be more partners. Women of Style will be sexier. Dynamic Women's a luncheon. So we don't want people to get sick of the same events over and over again. We want to have...
But also, I think people look forward to some of these events.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
hope so.
mean? I think people look forward to it. I mean, everybody wants to be on the list, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. I know you're going to be running crazy this weekend, but tell everybody where we can find you on Instagram, because we should be following you and all your outfits, and where we can find the magazine and the publication.
Sure. So on Instagram, I am Jess a la carte, JESSALACART. So cart with no E at the end.
Right.
I was torn between doing that.
Okay.
And then the magazine is on Instagram at DC Magazine, and then online we're dc.capitalfile.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me today. Just hang out while I wrap up.
Perfect.
I want to thank all of you for joining me today. Here I am in the gorgeous Chang Chang restaurant here in downtown DC. Everything you heard here today you can find in the show notes, but of course, you can also find everything in the list, areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you everything happening in the DC metro area, especially in the hospitality industry. Don't forget to follow me at NYCCI, on all the platforms, but especially on Insta, because I tell you stories and where I'm going and what I'm doing, and my food pics are pretty fabulous, I must say. I think that's it. Can't wait. Next week, I'm actually not going to be at one of the Peter Chang restaurants. I am doing a show with the Napa Valley Vintners who are going to be in town for the week. So stay tuned for that. And of course, on YouTube or any of the platforms, if you have questions for me or my guests today, please throw it out to me. We're happy to get back to you. Be safe out there and have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.